Hello, this is David Moreland. I'm the author of the novel Chickens Come Home to Roost. It's my great pleasure to be with you here today. And today we're going to talk about my novel, Chickens Come Home to Roost. I'm proud to report to you that Chickens Come Home to Roost is doing quite well across America. Unlike some of my early critics that felt like Chickens Come Home to Roost would only be a regional book or basically a southeastern type of a novel, I'm proud to report that all across the United States, the novel is being well received, and I'm really excited about the possibilities of even a movie being made on Chickens Come Home to Roost. So we look forward to, some really good things on it. In the novel, we discuss a lot of things, and if you have read it, I'm sure that you have either a pro or a con position how you stand on the novel. A couple of characters that we've got in there which are really fascinating is, of course, the main character, Frank Moss. Frank Moss, a successful businessman, had a business in Eatonton, Georgia, in Putnam County. And, of course, he befriended a black fellow named Aubrey Harrison. And this tale is about their story of leaving Arizona and going back to Georgia, back to Eatonton in Putnam County, to settle up some old odds. On talk radio, I have discussed a lot of issues with the Frank Moss type character, and it is just amazing in the United States in the 21st century. And of course, what took place in Chickens Come Home to Roost basically took place in 1994-95. But the constitutional issues are just amazing. You will not believe what happens to Frank Moss in this particular town in Eatonton. One of the main things that talk radio loves to discuss about Frank Moss is Frank Moss was arrested on a warrant signed by a non-neutral magistrate. And for what that means, and please get me right that I am not an attorney by any means, nor I wish to ever be an attorney, but a non-neutral magistrate is basically you cannot have your friend sign an arrest warrant. And in the story, Doris Anthony, the female lawyer that's so treacherous and evil in this book, has her friend sign the arrest warrant for Frank Moss to get rid of him. And, of course, Frank Moss is arrested on a fake stalking charge. Frank Moss, a little background, he was a successful businessman on Chamber of Commerce. People wanted to run for mayor. He helped children, was active in his church, just basically a good Christian man that was divorced, lived by himself. But Doris Anthony, she wanted to get rid of Frank Moss. Frank Moss had dated Doris Anthony 2 or 3 times, and of course he kind of figured out that she was almost like a fatal attraction. And but it's amazing how Frank Moss is arrested. Normally you think of a stalker as someone that hides behind the bushes with a camera, or peers at you inside of a window, or just tracks you down all day long. But basically, Doris Anthony sets Frank Moss up, and it's discussed in the book how this happens. But what is amazing, when Frank Moss is arrested on this non-neutral magistrate arrest warrant, he's taken to the sheriff's jail, which if you've been into Eatonton, Putnam County, you know the particular jail that I'm talking about. But actually, Frank Moss doesn't have any right to call an attorney. He has no hearing. And, of course, even in the movies, someone has a right to telephone an attorney. Well, Frank Moss does not have this right. He's locked into a broom closet type cell, and later inmates that had escaped the night before, on a dare now from the sheriff, sets the jail on fire. Frank Moss at this point doesn't know if he's going to live or die. But, of course, he lives through this thing, only to be informed by another law enforcement person, which had, I think, brutalized his wife with a baseball bat, now informs Frank Moss that the GBI believed that Frank Moss was going to kill himself and kill Doris Anthony, so Frank Moss should be sent to Georgia's state mental institution. Now, understand this, listeners. Frank Moss, without an attorney, without a hearing, without a bond whatsoever, and we're talking about not 1940 or 1960s, we're talking about 1994, is put into a police car, handcuffed, shackled, whatever, without any rights whatsoever, on this fake arrest warrant, is taken to Milledgeville now, the state institution for the insane. It is not put in some quiet little place with people that you suspect may be going crazy or something like that. But Frank Moss is put into the building which housed Georgia's most notorious killers and rapists that you saw on the evening news or read about in the newspaper. An innocent, sane businessman put in this type of situation. You hear all the time about people falsely put in jail for 2 or 3 nights or put in prison for a crime they did not commit. But how about this? How would you like to be put in Georgia's state mental institution with some of the most notorious criminals in the state? Not for 2 or 3 days, but for 2 weeks. And this is the type of constitutional treatment that Frank Moss got, not only in Putnam County, but the United States of America in 1994. And then, the story continues. He's hit with this tremendous bail, $25,000. He's banished from the county by the same judge that signs the papers to put him in Milledgeville. Just one constitutional violation after the next. It's amazing to me in America. I thought the United States Constitution covered all states, all counties, all cities of the United States. But apparently in Putnam County, and especially in Eatonton, they have their own Constitution. And if you have money and you have power, you can accomplish anything that you want to within that county or that city. And especially if you're in law enforcement, if you're an attorney or a judge, or if you are a successful business person that has unlimited amounts of money and resources, you can have anything done within that county, legal or illegal, that you ever want done. And that's the tragedy of Eatonton and Putnam County, as chickens come home to roost exposes. It's just amazing. Frank Moss is banished from the county, and later at the court trial, you'll see that he's actually banished from the state of Georgia. And every constitutional violation is just absolutely amazing. You'll just have to read the story to see what happens to this guy. The story continues on how the cops have fabricated all this evidence against Frank Moss, how they've taken the eulogy that he had written for his father's funeral and turned that and twisted that around into saying that Frank Moss was going to kill himself and kill this female attorney named Doris Anthony. And just anything that the law enforcement could twist and fabricate to their own benefit. They threatened Frank Moss's employees